Good evening and welcome to another episode of URC Chumps podcast. Unfortunately, my fellow guys, the hosts, Jacques and Dara, aren't available. Jacques, unfortunately, has been called away to work. Dara, who's still respecting his moment to mourn the loss of his uncle. But anyway, let's talk rugby this week. Wow, that's what I have to say about the games this weekend. Started off with Glasgow versus Racing 92. That was one hell of a game from what I could see quickly. Glasgow coming out victorious, which is what I predicted. The the one player I was looking forward to and hoping to make a bit more of a impact wasn't really starting. He came off the bench. Haichiva Diamani, still rate him as probably a big loss for the Stormers this past year, for the season. But yes, I mean that was a great one. So let's do this today. This was the week's games. There we go. So yeah, the week's games that recently happened. I mean, as I said, we started with the Glasgow versus Racing 92. Then we had Sale versus Stormers. As you can see, I'm a Stormers supporter, but disappointing the way the game went. I don't think Sale really knew what was happening. I don't know if it was just they couldn't handle the heat or they were tired from traveling. They were just making terrible decisions. I mean, they had so many penalties, which they went and put it into the corner instead of going for three. I was a bit surprised with that. Their scrums were doing pretty well. They dominated in a few points. I mean, to the point that even France Malherbe got a yellow card. Then, of course, discipline on their side also let them down with 3 yellow cards as well. So I don't know what else to say. The fact that a whole bunch of players that were in the team have played for the Stormers, so it's not like they didn't know the guys. And there's, yeah, I have no words for what happened with Sale. It was a complete disaster for them. But I mean, all good for the Stormers. The fact that now they've moved up into the position to actually be able to qualify for the next round, which hopefully will stay that way after this weekend. But we'll get into those games later. Sharks versus Toulouse. Sharks started off well, and then just let Toulouse run away with it. As you'll hear after this section, I've got a little voice note from Jacques on his takes of the game. No idea what happened to the Sharks. It didn't even look like they pitched up to their own game. Looked like they were still celebrating Christmas and New Year's. It didn't even look like a proper Sharks team playing. Didn't see the full game, but I did watch highlights. Was it a lack of leadership in the center? Do they need to start looking at in the midfield with your halfback? You need to start looking at a little bit more senior players and everything. That's a Exeter versus Bordeaux. As you can see, Bordeaux ran away with it, which is a bit surprising considering how Exeter has been quite strong in the past seasons, but they haven't been doing so well. We had Munster versus Saracens. Yeah, Munster. As you heard last week, we said Munster were going to win. I'm glad Munster won. I do not like the Saracens. There's a few players in there that I just think are so arrogant, and it's nice to see. Stade Francais versus Northampton. What's more to say? Stade Francais was definitely going to win. Yeah. Castro versus Bulls. Maybe that's why Jacques not here. Maybe he's consoling his girlfriend. Sorry, Jacques. Yeah, they look pretty decent at one point, and then they just let the game run away from them. It looked like there was also a little bit of off the ball stuff during the game that I saw. It didn't look like anything. Hopefully, that's the end of it. It has put them out of contention for the round of 16, but we'll have to see the next one. Leicester versus Ulster. Andre Potter leading your center with the players calibers that you have at Leicester. there was definitely no other way that was going to end any other way. Toulon versus Harlequins. Yes, that is what I expected from Toulon against the Harlequins. They looked a lot more solid than they did against the Stormers in that first bit of the game before they ran away with it. Harlequins, yeah, the two. La Rochelle versus Leinster. The repeat of the final from 2003. Was it 2003? Yeah, it was 2003, where La Rochelle beat them. Leinster came up on top, but I mean, this year they do have the likes of Barrett and Sneeman in their teams. Bristol versus Benetton. Again, a no-brainer. Definitely going to be Bristol over the Benetton there. And then we have Bath versus Clermont. Bath definitely came back a lot stronger. They look like they had a bit more of a solid team this week that were able to step up to the French invasion that came. Now we'll quickly have Jacques with his take on the not the Bull, the Sharks game, and the upcoming game.
Well, good evening, gents and ladies, whoever is watching. My personal opinion about the Sharks to lose game, I don't want to talk about it because I think that was the poorest performance that I've seen the Sharks play the whole season. I must say that when Lorenzo Julius came on, he made one hell of a difference. Scored a brilliant try, I must say. Yeah, I can't say very much because I'm sad, very sad. And then with the coming game against Bordeaux, I will be honest, I've never seen Bordeaux play. I've never been interested, to be honest. So I think it's gonna be interesting. I'll do some well, not research, but I'll have a look at some of their highlights, and then let's hope the Sharks can pull it through. Because if I'm not mistaken, if the Sharks lose here, their playoff chances are over.
Thanks a lot, Jacques, for that. Hopefully he'll be back next week. Let's talk about next week's games. So long in the Champions Cup, we have this week Ulster versus Exeter. The fact that Exeter couldn't win at home makes me think that Ulster's definitely going to take this game. Bulls are back home against Stanford Say. I'm gonna have to see what the team's like, but probably I'm gonna go with the Bulls just because it is a bit summer, but it is apparently wet up in Gauteng right now. Apparently it's raining while it's sunny and windy over here. They are closer to the cyclone that's in between South Africa and Madagascar right now, so that could be a factor. We'll have to wait and see what the game's like, but I'm gonna go with the Bulls home win. Northampton versus Munster. I'm going to go with my fellow Limerick host and say Munster's going to take their game. Clermont versus Bristol. I'm going to go with Clermont. Definitely, they're going to be a lot stronger at home against Bristol. Bristol Bears, yeah. Leinster versus Bath. I don't think Bath is going to be up to the task to take on the Irish forces that they have to face up against there with the mixture that they have and everything like that. It's definitely going to be a Leinster win. Benetton versus La Rochelle. Sorry, Benetton ain't going to step up, even though we do have, or you do have the likes of Sebastian Negri, who I do rate as quite a world-class player. But yes, yeah. Racing 92 versus Stormers. Diamani hosting his old team. We have the likes of Evan Roos back. We have the likes of Paul de Villiers, who right now I think is a fantastic youngster in the setup, and Roche, who was in the center for the Stormers, he definitely put up his hand against Sale Sharks. I do think it's going to be a bit hard for Racing. I am probably being a bit biased with my selection, but I am going to go definitely with the Stormers win. Harlequins versus Glasgow, just because Harlequins have Marcus Smith, and I also think he's a bit of an arrogant player. I want Glasgow to put them in their place. Franco Smith, come on, do a South African a solid and coach your team to a win. The Bordeaux Eagles versus Sharks. Now, Sharks have to win this game. I mean, so do the Stormers. They have to step up. I know there was reports about the team looking at how Eben is reacting from a concussion. Hopefully he's all right, because they're going to need someone to help lead the team. It just looked like there was a lack of leadership, or they look like they were on holiday period. They need to step back up to the game. They need someone to light a cracker up their butts. Saracens versus Custers. As much as I want Saracens to lose, they're definitely not going to lose this game. They're definitely going to win. Toulouse versus Leicester. This is going to be a great game. It's going to be probably the game of the weekend, in my opinion. It's going to come down to how the halfbacks control the game. The likes of your Intermac and DuPont going up against Pollard, and I forgot who's the scrummy at Leicester. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a thing. I want Leicester to win just because they got Pollard in the team. It might just silence a bit of the critics saying, look at DuPont beating the Springbok side, because if Pollard can do it, then look, one Springbok beat you. But yes, we will definitely hope. I definitely hope that Leinster beats Toulouse. Sale versus Toulon. Now Toulon's visiting Sale. The caliber of players at Toulon does say for me that it is definitely going to be a Toulon win. Toulon's and Toulouse are kind of my French teams that I like to support, but Toulon's definitely going to be the team that comes out on top in that one. Remember, guys, if you want to comment on these videos and tell us what you think, and we will bring them up in the upcoming videos and everything like that. But now we're going to move over to the Challenge Cup. Week 3 of 4, Gloucester versus Scarlets. I'm just going to go through the results, say whether or not I thought they were going to win. Gloucester versus Scarlets. I definitely think Gloucester was going to win that game. Perpignan versus Cardiff. It was a close game. I was actually hoping Cardiff would put it, but they didn't. Venice versus Edinburgh. Well, definitely Edinburgh was going to win. I thought they were going to win by a bit more, but they didn't. Black Lions versus Bayonne. As much as those Georgian guys have a lot of hearts, there's definitely going to be a Bayonne win. Ospreys versus Newcastle Falcons. And I'm actually quite glad for the Ospreys. You'll hear one of our friends of the podcast, Rodri from Black Feather Fancast, giving his views on the Six Nation teams for Wales just now. And I'm actually quite glad for them. And I've heard there was a bit of negativity from the Osprey supporters, and I'm hoping this gives them a bit more life into supporting the team. But yeah, Montpellier versus Lions. That was a result I was not expecting in that scoreline. I was expecting Montpellier to win, but not by that much. It looks like the Lions have almost lost that momentum that they had at the beginning of the season. They just look like they've just gone off. They've gone into cruise mode. The problem is the cruise mode is not at the caliber of the rugby that they need to be playing. And I know Montpellier right now are busy talking about the fact that they're losing 3 of their players, being Nico Janssen from Rensburg and Jan Serfontein to the Bulls. I know Jan Serfontein is apparently waiting to do his French residency before he moves to the Bulls. So that is something. And Kobus Reinach, who I'll talk about more a little bit later, who has signed on for the Stormers. Apparently it's been confirmed. So yes, that is a great one. Connacht versus Leon. That was definitely going to be a Connacht win. Cheetahs versus Zebra. Cheetahs looked like they were doing so well. Then they almost went off the pedal, which is something you don't do against Zebra. Yes, even though Zebra is the whipping boys in the competition, I don't think that they are at the top caliber. They seem to get a boost of energy and surge and get into the game, but then they lose it near the end. Like I said, rugby's 80 minutes. It's not 20 or 60. It's 80 minutes. You literally have to put your heart on your sleeve and just go for it. Dragons versus Pearl. Yeah, dragons, the whipping boys again of everything. I actually want more for the dragons, to be honest. I know there's a family that I follow on a couple of the groups that I'm on. That are very big dragons fan. They actually hype me up for the game, even though it might not even be my game, and everything like that. But now looking on to this week coming, we've got Newcastle versus Montpellier. I'm definitely gonna go with Montpellier. I know the guys like Serpentine, Van Rensburg, and Reinach are gonna want to end on a high. Cardiff versus Connacht, which is basically a URC game. Cardiff being at home and they're playing some decent rugby. I'm gonna say it's gonna definitely be a Connacht, Cardiff win. Ospreys versus Pau. I'm gonna go with Ospreys. They look like they've turned on. We have the Lions hosting the Dragons. I'm hoping this is where the Lions turn on until they play against the Stormers again. But I'm going to go with a Dragons loss, and the Lions are going to win this game. Scarlets are definitely going to win this game. Cheetahs versus Lion. I want the Cheetahs to win. I want them to prove some South Africans wrong. I know the likes of France Stain is busy. How can I say? Petitioning that Cheetahs take on the position of the Melbourne Rebels to take their position in Super Rugby to get South Africa back in Super Rugby. How that's going, I don't know. It's gone a bit quiet, so I think they're sweeping it under the rug. But yeah, Edinburgh versus Black Lions is definitely going to be an Edinburgh win. Bayonne versus Gloucester. I'm probably going to have to say Gloucester's going to win. And Perpignan versus Zebra. I'm going to go with the Perpignan win. That is definitely something that I see happening. And yeah, that's how I see the game's going to go that way. But yeah, let me know how you guys feel. Put your comments down below. I definitely will like to hear what you guys have to say. Now let's look at the Six Nations. Let's have a quick look at the teams, and I'll then at the end of it play what our fellow podcast member from another podcast has to say about the Wales team. But yes, I'm actually quite interested to see what is being said about the teams. This right here is the team for Italy. I did notice the likes of Ferrari is not in there, which I'm a bit surprised considering how senior he's been in the past. I do see at scrum half they got Stephen Varney back, the Welsh player who is legit for he what you call it, can play due to his grandmother. And I think it was Tommy Allen who played for the Crusaders in the Super Rugby, has also recently been able to get his residency and is playing in the fly half there. But what I can say is Italy isn't Italy of the past, but I don't see them winning. But we will have to see how some of the results go. They have definitely been putting up their hand and definitely putting in the miles to show that they are ready to make sure that they're high level. Then we have the French. I mean, as you can see, Aldrich, Antonio Uni. They got a few of the big guys that are there. Um, I mean, you can see there's DuPont, and it's nice to see Intermax back in the into the mix. He's been off for quite some time with injury. He missed the World Cup due to injury. To be honest, the fact that he got injured, that's when I said they had lost the World Cup. I do think part of the GOAT discussion with DuPont has got a lot to do with Intermac because he just does so well for DuPont in that position. They are probably one of the top, if not the best halfback pairing in the world, in my honest opinion. But yeah, so I'm actually quite interested to see how they perform. They do look like they have some really big players this year, and I would actually like to see how the other teams step up to the challenge. Then we go over to the England side. As you can see, Jamie George and Ellis Genge have been put as vice captains, with Mauro Toje taking over the captaincy armband. It looks like the normal teams that they have. Freddie Stew is probably going to want to, how can I say, step up because he had a bit of a bad Autumn Nation series with some of the Southern Hemisphere teams. Ben Curry's back into the mix. I know he's been off for a bit on and off due to injury. But him and his brother are playing together. It would be nice to see two of them play together. Even though we like to make fun of him here in South Africa because of his butchering of the Afrikaans language in the game. But yes, Scotland, as you can see, they got the likes of Darcy Graham, who has been having a phenomenal season so far. Finn Russell is vice captain along with Sione Tupiloto as captain. Unfortunately, his brother didn't make the mix. So yes. As I can see, Dylan Richardson from the Sharks made the cut again, which is nice for someone like that to have that on his CV. I mean, it looks like a very good team. Hugh Jones is probably for me one of the top centers in the world right now. I rated him when he was at the Stormers when he made his professional breakthrough here. Johnny Gray's in the mix as well. Jamie Ritchie as well. Pierce Skuman, who I know right now they're busy talking about the fact that he should be a Lion, the starting Lions prop at number one. But yeah, we'll have to see what Andy Farrell has to say at the end of this. Here is the Irish team. As you can see, pretty much the usual names. Peter O'Mahony. A lot of people down here in the south that I've spoken to have also been asking how much longer has he got to play. Yeah, but I mean, you got the likes of Jack Crowley and Kieran Frawley playing with Jamie Gibson Park. Mac Hansen with his he's ban for the comments that he made towards the commentators, not the commentators, the referees, will be available to play. Whether he plays the first game or not, we'll have to see. And I mean, it looks like a pretty strong side. I'm just trying to see. Did I see Robbie Henshaw is there? James Lowe, Connor Murray, Jamie O'Brien, Jamie Osborne. Huh. Yeah. It looks like they got a team to step up and put in the Ryan Baird over there. And Kalen Doris is taking over the captaincy again. I see they haven't nominated who the vice captain is on this list, but yeah, Andrew Porter, who definitely puts in hard mileage, though as a South African, don't think he's that great, but as compared to an Ox and a Vincent Koch, but yeah. And as you over here, as you can see, here is the Wales team, the Welsh team. I will let my fellow colleague Rodri uh tell you what he thinks about this right now.
Good afternoon, Ospreys fans. This is Rodri from the Black Feather, an Ospreys rugby fancast, and I'm coming at you today. Just jumped online to bring you some bonus content. Obviously, big news today is that we've had the Welsh squad released for the up-and-coming Six Nations in 2 or 3 weeks' time at the end of Jan. So I thought I'd just pick through the selections that Gatland has made from an Ospreys perspective and just give my opinions on those for the next few minutes. So just a short video for you here today. So right off the bat, we have 5 Ospreys inclusions. That's Jack Morgan, who is captain once again, and I think that's a wise choice, particularly in the absence of Dewi Lake. I think Dav Jenkins could have done a good job as well, but Jack Morgan is primed and ready for that level of responsibility, particularly with the leadership that he shows at the Ospreys. I know that Dav displays equally strong leadership over at Exeter Chiefs, but you know, Jack is really suited to that type of role and will allow Jenkins to just relax and, you know, lean into his game, which is involves a lot of grunt and just stepping up physically. So I think that'll allow him to shine a bit more. Then we have Sam Parry. I'm ecstatic for his inclusion and really happy that him and Warren have been able to get over whatever hump that was in the autumn. Warren can hold a grudge. I said this in a previous episode. So it's nice that he's been able to overlook that. And interestingly, with, you know, the absence of Dewi, as well as Ryan Elias, that probably puts Sam immediately in there as a sort of second hooker position behind Elliot D. I can't quite see now. Yes, it's Evan Lloyd, but I'd anticipate Sam Parry maybe holding the fort down on the bench there, just for his reliability at scrum time and at line-out time as well. His line-outs and his darts this season have been pretty solid, especially in the last few games in Dewi's absence. Then we have Gary Tubbs, or propping, and that's an obvious inclusion. He was always going to be there, and he'll probably start as well. So good on him. Well done, mate. Then we've got Dan Edwards at 10. Obviously, there's been a couple of injuries that have really rocked the Welsh camp over the past days and weeks. Namely, firstly with Anscombe with his knee injury, which seems to be a recurring thing now. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him in a Welsh jersey again. But yeah, Dan Edwards has got the call up and I'm really happy for him. Obviously, we have our reservations on this pod. We've discussed them thoroughly about introducing him to that setup a little bit too early and the impact that could have on him, not physically, but mentally. But I think he's the kind of player who can rise above that. Obviously, he's the only out-and-out 10 named within the squad that plays regularly at 10 for their region. Ben Thomas obviously flits between 10 and centre, but is preferred at 10 at centre by Matt Sherratt. And then we've also got Jared Evans. Sorry, I'm just catching up, looking through here. Have we got Jared Evans? We've got Dan Edwards. We've got... Oh, and Nick Tompkins as well. And Ben Thomas. Sorry, I'm just fully looking through it. What is this with doing squad selections in alphabetical order as well? It makes it a nightmare to look through properly and you know, pick out names as you'd need to, as you'd want to. So it looks like he is the only out and out 10 in the squad. So I really don't know how that's going to go. Is he just going to be thrust into that starting position with Ben Thomas outside him, maybe? He is a playmaker. He kicks well from hand. His drop goals are, so accurate, 90% of the time. Like I said, his kicking from hand, his playmaking, the lines that he runs, he's a quality player. I just don't want him to get burned. But I'm ecstatic for his inclusion. He definitely deserves it. Rightly so, he's in there above Sheedy and some of the other people operating in and outside of Wales at the moment. He's one for the future. And then finally, from an Ospreys perspective, we've got Owen Watkin, which again, like Gareth Thomas, was just a shoe-in for his defensive capabilities. He's solid on and off the ball, and I think Gatland likes that about him. I'd anticipate seeing him starting, at least the first couple of games, whether we then see a bit of a transition over to Eddie James. I don't know. Obviously, Max Llewellyn's been left out of this selection, which was surprising to me. I thought we might see that partnership that was started in the autumn continue between Llewellyn and James. But happy for Owen Watkin, deserves his place there. A couple of honourable mentions that we're unlucky to miss out, in my personal opinion, in my humble opinion. Tom Botha and Rhys Henry in the front row. I think both of them were in with a shot. Obviously, Tom Botha, a little bit older, has recently come into qualification for Wales after playing in Wales for that residency period. So he could have been a shrewd choice to bring in just to shore up the scrum, particularly with the number of youngsters in there. Equally, Henry, he's a bit younger, despite how he looks. He is a bit younger, and he's a bit of an emerging talent now at the Ospreys. He came on the weekend, and no, he didn't come on the weekend. Ignore me there. It was maybe the previous weekend, and he really shored up the scrum. He's also great off the ball. He's got that athletic ability. He even known to put boot to ball a few times, and come up singing as a result with some lovely footwork. James Fender, he was a bit of a surprise omission for me. I probably had more money on him being included than some others that were. He's a beast. I thought his omission last week from the squad, from the Ospreys team, was a subtle hint, because he was back fit, but he wasn't included. I thought that was maybe a hint that he could be coming on for Wales, playing for Wales, being called up to the squad, but that hasn't come into fruition. I think he'll be a little bit aggrieved because he's probably ready. Same goes for Rhys Davies. He's been there before. He's done that. I thought Gatland liked him as a player, liked his grunt, liked his aggression, but clearly not enough to include him. So I think both of them in the second row can feel a little bit aggrieved. And then there's Ruben Morgan-Williams, who's probably the unluckiest of the lot. He, especially with the inclusion of players like Rhodri Williams, and again, we said this last time when he was included in the autumn, this is no slight on Rhodri Williams, but he is getting into the latter years of his career, and it doesn't feel like a investment in talent going forward, particularly when somebody like Ruben has been playing so well for the Ospreys. He makes line breaks, he takes intercepts, he's got the pace to then finish those opportunities off. We'll definitely see him at some point. I have no doubt about that, but maybe this wasn't his year. Well, it clearly wasn't his year, but he can feel really aggrieved. I think most people had him in their teams. Most of the pundits who were making their predictions were putting him in there. He would certainly be above Kieran Hardy in my book. So I think I would have been even more dismayed if Hardy had been included without Ruben there as well. But that isn't the case. But We'll definitely see Ruben in the years to come, but I thought maybe this was his chance. He's at the right point in his career where this could have been quite good for him. It could have sort of propelled him to the next level, but hey ho, we'll see about it in the autumn. And then finally, we've got Kieran Williams. Again, I didn't include him in my team. There are other options that more cleanly, I guess, fit within Gatland's mold and the narrative that he's trying to create. But, you know, he carries hard, he hits hard, he tackles hard, he has absolutely no fear. And he could have brought something to that back line. And sorry, one more, as could Keelan Giles. You know, we've got a few injuries out on the wing at the moment with the absence of Mason Grady. There's been a couple of shock omissions. Obviously, Rio Dyer not included, but then Ellis Mee included. So he clearly sees something in Ellis Mee there, likes the height of him, likes the power and the pace. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. Few shock inclusions and shock omissions. I'm generally quite positive about that team. It's a shame that players like Dewi Lake and Adam Beard aren't there to, you know, make it even stronger. Just we constantly seem to be missing one or two of these older heads, and that comes with age. But I think we can be relatively positive about this team. There seems to be some sort of structure settling now, after last year's Six Nations and then the autumn internationals. It finally feels like there's some sort of consistency coming, and players are sort of nailing, you know, painting their names on their shirts. But yeah, we'll see what comes in a couple of weeks. It's certainly going to be all or nothing for Gatland. He's admitted that today in the press. He said that by no stretch of the imagination is his job secure. So he's going to really have to get these boys to pull something out of the bag. I think we've just got to target that Italy game, because one win out of the bunch is better than no wins, which is obviously what we did last year. So that would, on paper, be an improvement. But I really want to see this team kick on and just show something, even if they don't get the wins. And I think they're capable of it. Anyway, I've been Rhodri. This has been the Black Feather and Ospreys Rugby Fancast. Let us know your thoughts on Gatland's selection today, and we'll be back at you with a full episode recorded tomorrow, released on Wednesday morning. Thanks, guys, and go well.
Thank you, Rodri and Black Feather Fancast, for allowing me to use this video, TikTok. As you can see, the banner for them are below. Give them a loud and shout. I'll put one of their I'll put the YouTube link in the comments. But thank you very much, guys, for letting me use this video to have a Welsh perspective on the game. It would have been nice to get a bit more. But yes, over to news. Let's start off with one of the big ones that's been discussed. Siya Kolisi looks like he isn't coming to the Stormers anytime soon. It looks like there's a bit of a discussion whether or not his contract and everything like that, whether he pulls that I'm retired and then comes back out of retirement. This talk is another story. We'll just have to wait and see what the play is. I do think it might affect him in his rugby, the fact that his kids are here in Cape Town and he's now has to stay in Natal. Whether or not there's a few games that he's going to miss, that he's going to be here and then go back here and back, it is another thing. Whether that affects him in the plays is another. We'll have to wait and see. But from myself, all the best to you, Siya. I hope things work out for you. Bulls look like they have signed Nico Janssen from Rensburg and Janssen Fontaine, as I mentioned earlier. And I would like to see Serpentine back in South Africa. He was a great player. He was a loss. Unfortunately, he played in an era that required a lot of change, and he was one of the guys that lost out in the change when Rusty came in to take over. But yeah, it would be nice to see him back in South Africa. Hopefully, he's kicking on the door. And yes, it is a very hard place to come kick in the door here in South Africa to play. Kobus Reinach looks like he has officially signed on for the Stormers, which is great. The fact that we're losing Yankees and Paul de Vet to the Bulls. Yankees looks like he's on his way to France, which might be great for South Africa in the sense that he has played internationally. He might get onto the vision and the discussion when it comes to scrum halves in the future, with the fact that he's overseas. All the best to him. Reinach, I think someone like him guiding someone like Stefan Ungara and Khan at scrum half would be great. Someone who has a lot of experience all over the world, England, France, Japan, South Africa. Mentoring youngsters like that is a great decision. But yeah, if you have anything, guys, please put it into the comment section. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Send this out to everybody else. Hopefully Jacques back next week, and we'll wait to hear what happens with Dara and everything like everyone like that. And then maybe I can even get Dara to give his view on the team for the Six Nations, as we know that is coming up very soon. All the best, my fellow champions. Goodbye. Keep well. Stay safe.